What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla Kong unboxing video. We're going to be unboxing both Godzilla and Kong. This is my review for Playmates Hong Kong Battle Kong and Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong. Let's do it! These boxes are like chewed up. That's how they were at the store when I bought them. They were like ripped into. Like some kid was gnawing on these things for sure. Okay, so we got Playmates Battle Godzilla and Battle Kong. These are the Neon Godzilla and Kong. I think I'm gonna start with Kong because there's just a little less going on with him, so it should be easier. The back of the box states, unleash the primal strength of Kong as he enters an urban jungle of skyscrapers, navigating the neon city skyline with his ancient scepter to challenge Godzilla for the title of King of the Monsters. I don't really think that's what Kong was doing in the movie. But here's Kong, here's the packaging. I always have said I liked the Playmates Godzilla vs. Kong packaging, nice and simple. I like this little picture of Kong with the battle damage. I like that they gave the neon text down here, that's pretty cool, and I like that they've kind of boosted up the art here to make it a little more neon and pop a little more, especially on the back. I think they've done a good job highlighting the neon city that Kong is fighting in. And then down there, just all the other Godzilla figures, including that darn Kong with fighter jet that I never did get. Okay, so we got Kong out, we got his battle damage out, and we've got his horribly ugly axe out. There was no effort put into this thing at all. This is Kong's new axe. It's funny because you can actually tell that the sculpt is a lot better on this one than you normally get to realize because the paint is so freaking bland. They've added a splash of purple to the front of it, so it's got a little bit of purple going on, but it's not even that vibrant, and then the back is just pure brown, and that does result in the sculpt standing out more than it normally does. But I'm pretty sure they haven't re-sculpted the axe. It's just simply a matter of one is unpainted, so you can kind of see that there's a lot of potential with it, while the other is painted very poorly, so that potential is lost. It's not even like the purple is that neon, because when you compare it to the normal axe, this blue is actually more vibrant and neon than the purple is. Wouldn't it have been more interesting if they had painted the bone of the axe red and then the axe blade purple, made it stand out that way, because of course the handle of Kong's axe in the film glows a subtle dull red, and then the blade could be purple for neon. That could be interesting, but that's not even what they did. As far as Kong goes, that battle damage stands out really well, and this is one of the few times where I think it's like not that horrible, simply because everything else about the figure is so strange and colorful. But we'll get his battle damage piece put in. They go in nice and easy. And on the Kongs, it actually goes into his arm and blends in much better than it does on pretty much any other Playmates figure. Now, if you haven't seen me review a Playmates Kong before, I guess this might be your first time learning that overall, I actually like these guys quite a bit. I mean, just from this alone, you can tell there's a wide range of articulation here with these guys, and they're pretty solid. You can do a lot with it. I like that. As far as the sculpt goes, I actually think Playmates has done a very nice job. In the back, you can see there's lots of good muscle details and ridges running through. The fur is pretty well sculpted for a children's toy. The front of him looks pretty good, with the face being the better of the two faces. I think this gritted teeth face, which came with the Kong with the fighter jet, is the stronger of the two faces. On the body, he's got good detailing in the chest, in the fur, and the scars. Now, of course, there are inaccuracies with that, like one of the scratches not being long enough, the fact that his fur kind of just builds right where his chest ends, and the skin of his chest doesn't really extend towards his belly like it does in the movie. But overall, I actually really like the sculpt of the Playmates Kong, and I've got videos where I go more in depth with that, like when I reviewed the Antarctic Kong and when I reviewed the original King Kong with the axe. So if you want more in-depth reviews, you can go check those ones out. But for now, I'm very impressed with the sculpt that Playmates has gone with here for a children's toy. I think it's overall pretty decent. It is a little hunched-shouldered for me, but it's fine. He still looks like Kong. I like that you can kind of get him into these poses where he looks a little more primal. He's also articulated enough to stand on all fours and run around like he does in the movie, and that's really nice. That's a nice thing that he's able to do, and that goes along with the articulation. This Kong is wonderfully articulated for a children's toy. He can do a lot of movements. There's a lot of great range with this guy. You can get him into all sorts of positions, and he can hold his pose very well. Kong has 11 points of articulation, and not only that, but some of them are double jointed, so he can do more than just one thing with them. Not only can he spin his arm, but he can also bring it out to the side, and same deal with his legs. So some joints are double jointed with Kong, and that's why he's so epic. One thing that I also don't commend enough, because I never really tested during videos, is how well a figure stands on their own 2 feet. For instance, the last figure we reviewed, Jet Jaguar, could not stand without being stuck to the ground with some sticky gum. Kong, on the other hand, Kong stands just fine. I don't understand the point of this figure though, it just doesn't go far enough with the neon aesthetic. As far as the paint goes, he's covered in this dull gray brown, which doesn't really capture the Kong from the movie Godzilla vs. Kong, and that's been a problem Playmates has had ever since they started making Godzilla vs. Kong figures, is they've never really figured out how to do the brown just right. I do appreciate some details like the hands being a darker color than the rest of the fur, and the fact that the chest and the face are a darker color, the teeth look nice, the eyes look nice. So I do want to commend the normal details that they put into these things, but I just don't get the whole neon Kong because they don't go far enough with it. He's got a splash of blue on either side, and then his arms only on the front are covered in some neon blue purple coloring, and the tip of his beard looks like it was dunked into some blue paint. It's just boring because you turn him around and you can't even tell that it's the neon Kong you're looking at. This is just the normal Kong. So what on earth is the point of it? Now, one thing I appreciate at the very least is that they did swap the heads between these Kongs. It's not just an exact repaint of the Kong with the axe, although it is still a repaint. It's just a repaint of the Kong with the fighter jet. Now he's got the gritted teeth, but I like that they gave him the axe. I'm glad that they didn't make it exactly the same as this. And from the back, you can't even tell which one is which. It defeats the whole purpose of the neon Kong. The paint on this guy's better. The sculpt on this guy's pretty much the same, but I'm gonna say it's better simply because it's not covered in this distracting, ugly paint. And at least they put some effort into the axe to make it look like the axe from the movie, where this one's like, what do they do with it? They just put a little bit of purple dust on it? Getting into another variant figure that didn't really justify its existence, here's Kong versus Mechagodzilla. They look good together. You've got a kind of sort of neon-y Kong standing next to a Mechagodzilla that's got a very vibrant red. Of course the two of them are gonna look good together. I had to give Kong the win because he's my guy. He's my boy. In case you've forgotten, this video is brought to you by Team Kong. I don't have the King Kong Cola anymore, but I'm still officially the Team Kong man. Another figure that didn't really go far enough with its neon aesthetic was this one. This is NECA's poster version Kong, which is similarly a kind of neon-esque Kong, although they're going for very different color schemes. And interestingly, they both kind of just go with the top of the body only and then it tapers out, but this is just going to show that NECA did it in a way that is just better overall. He's got the colors on the back, and they make better use of the neon colors than Playmates did. I think if anything, the only thing that should be left kind of normal on this guy would be the face, and everything else should be very vibrantly colored and very strange, because if you're gonna make this figure, then do something weird with it. Or just go full force with it like NECA did with the weird neon face paint. Go with that as well. Do something more than you've done. So I wanted to show it off because I actually really liked the NECA one, even though I didn't think it went far enough with its paint, and I don't like this Playmates one. So I wanted to give an example of kind of how to do it better, and it's just to take it further. Coming from across the pond or under the sea, we have Godzilla. Good box, like what they've done with Godzilla in front of the Neon City. The packaging here says, the earth-shaking power of Godzilla is in your hands as the king of the monsters unleashes his devastating heat ray and skyscraper-shattering tail swipe to battle Kong for the monster throne. Again, I don't really think that's what they were doing in the movie. It was more of just a little grudge match. Godzilla comes in pieces. Here's Godzilla and then like all of his pieces. Here's his battle damage, his atomic breath, and then his tail. It feels really unstable, like he's gonna fall apart. It does not feel very sturdy at all, and I think it's a result of his plastic shell they've put on the front. This guy really feels like he is going to break. He feels loose. You can hear it. But I just want to say, at least they tried to take him further. They didn't take him far enough, in my opinion, which might be shocking when you look at that, but at least they're giving it a shot. Well, I like that the tail stud is blue. Goes in pretty nice and easy. I actually like the battle damage piece being this translucent blue. With the red piece on the front, actually, again, he looks pretty decent because it gives some color to his front. When you put this on, it's going to take that color away. And this is one of the better battle damage pieces with Godzilla's ribs showing. Chest piece went in there nice and snug, and it's just kind of a shame it stands out like a sore thumb, but it's just kind of a shame because it makes Godzilla all bland. Like, couldn't it have been purple? Couldn't you have made an area on his chest purple or something? Given him a bit more life than just this translucent blue. Also, Playmates has gotten their GD money worth out of their Atomic Breath sculpt. Here's the original Atomic Breath from the Godzilla with Atomic Breath that they reused the sculpt of for the Mechagodzilla Proton Scream, and now they've created a third iteration of it for the Hong Kong Godzilla Atomic Breath. But I do want to say, I'm glad that they went with two different colors here, and it doesn't really show up on camera terribly well, but the original Godzilla Atomic Breath is a lot brighter of a blue than the new one. The Hong Kong one is a much darker blue, and in my opinion actually looks better than the original. It's a little more representative of of what Godzilla's atomic breath looks like in Godzilla vs. Kong. Wouldn't it have been cooler if it was purple? Here's Godzilla blasting a red beam, and that already looks much more interesting than if he's shooting a blue that is just the same blue as him. This now is just too much blue. Wouldn't it have been more interesting if it was purple like Shin Godzilla's? But at least the Godzilla Sculpt can hang on to the atomic breath very well. You gotta kind of knock it out on purpose. It's kind of hard to talk about the sculpt on this guy because it's mostly gone. The way they've done this Godzilla, they've taken all of the detail out of him. I mean, Playmates Godzillas are already notoriously unrendered, and you can really see that here because his neck looks pretty decent, but his face looks terribly smooth. You've lost all definition with his mouth. His arms look pretty decent because they're rubbery, and the rubbery Playmates pieces always look better, and I actually do like that they're rubbery because you can kind of get him to do these wider slaps like he does in the movie. The chest piece, all the definition is lost because of this new translucent blue piece they've put on. It's very hard plastic, feels very fragile and cheap. And then the side piece is just where the normal Playmates unrenderedness began with, and it goes into the very unrendered tail that I appreciate some detailing on, but like not really much because there's not really much to it. They've given a pattern to the bottom of him, and I like that. That's good stuff. The insides of the legs are very unrendered, but the outsides look pretty decent, and that's just typical Playmates. As far as articulation goes, Godzilla's decently well articulated, with articulation in his neck and mouth, arms, legs, his feet theoretically, although mine are not turning very easily, and it feels like if I force them, they're gonna break. And then his tail. His tail has some. Overall, I think it's 8 points of articulation if I'm including the feet, which is actually pretty good for a Playmates Godzilla. As far as the paint goes, they've done a pretty good job with the consistency at least, where Godzilla's tail's translucent blue going up onto his belly that runs all the way through his face into his face. That's on the front of Godzilla. On the side, it's a harsh cutoff, a hard line between hard plastic to hard plastic where they've given up on the color altogether, and that's where I'm saying do more with it. Add some reds and some purples. The arms go back to being neon and translucent, which is pretty neat. I like that they're translucent at the very least, and that's a very cool thing this figure did. And you've got some purple and blue on it. The face is very translucent and it bleeds into a darker neck, which is pretty cool. All of the spines are translucent, which is not the first time they've done that, but this is the first time they've added these purple bits to the spines, and the purple looks very cool. It looks very good, and the purple on the tail looks very good as well. The tail piece now also being pretty translucent, especially in the tip, and that's also pretty sweet. So they have taken Godzilla much further, and they are putting in an effort. It's just distracting when it cuts off halfway through the body, and the blue is just a little bland because it's so much of it. You could have done some purples and some reds and some more things to make it more interesting, or just have little splashes of Godzilla's skin pattern, his normal skin color, like kind of what they've done on the back, where on the tail you've got these little splashes of Godzilla's traditional skin color, and then the rest of it's this very vibrant color. That's pretty cool when they do that. You lose a lot of your detail. He doesn't even have eyes really. You gotta like go looking for them because they've just turned him so translucent and blue. Like, couldn't the eyes have been a darker blue, or could they have been yellow or something to stand out? You could have done something with it to make him more interesting, because he's kind of boring despite how colorful he is, which is crazy. Getting the two of them together, you've got Godzilla and Kong. You can have Kong do his big axe down to Godzilla's head. Boom. And now you can have them do their Hong Kong fight as if you couldn't before. The drop kick is my favorite part of Godzilla vs. Kong. I love when Kong gets Godzilla with the drop kick. I like the noise Godzilla makes. I like that Godzilla kind of screams when it happens. And sure, I'll say it, these guys are a pair. They look fine together. I don't even think they look that good together, to be honest, because the Kong just doesn't go far enough and the Godzilla's too blue. They don't even look that good together. It's also weird because they painted the inside of the axe, so you gotta flip the axe the wrong way around to see the color on it. What a worthless toy set. Well, anyways, here's Godzilla standing next to the normal Godzilla, and it just is no contest. The normal heat ray Godzilla just outclasses the other one in every single category other than, I guess, the atomic breath color. The original one also had the very cool translucent back spine. The original one just feels so much sturdier, although I will say I like the rubber arms on the new one better than I like the hard plastic arms on the old one. Again, getting the Mecha Godzilla out. You got the two vibrant Godzilla versus the vibrant Mecha Godzilla. These guys don't even look that good together because the Mecha Godzilla just doesn't have anywhere near as interesting of stuff going on with him, and the Godzilla is just way too blue. Like, they tried on the neck and the shoulder. Why'd they give up? But anyways, you can have Mecha Godzilla beat the snot out of Godzilla. Again, here's NECA with another example of how you could have done things more interesting. Here is their Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956 poster version. And this guy's got the green and the black and the pink spines and the yellow breath, and he just stands out much better than this pure blue one. Like, he's way more interesting. There's way more going on with him. He just looks cooler. And it just shows that you could have done a Neon Godzilla pretty well if you had just done something more with it and committed to the idea more than just making a cheap cash grab, which is all that Playmates did here. Shout out NECA for this one. If it's not obvious, I do not think either of these figures justify their existence, which is the biggest sin a toy could commit. I don't recommend them. I especially don't recommend the Godzilla because he feels very fragile and like he will fall apart, even though he's got the better and more interesting paint job, which mostly I'm just saying because I really like the purple on the spines. I don't recommend the Kong either, but if I was to say to get one or the other, I'd say to get the Kong, just because it's a better toy to begin with. He's got a better sculpt, better articulation, and at least there's a little more effort put into him. Overall, I guess I'd give the Heat Ray Godzilla a 3 out of 10 because at least they've tried to do something interesting with it. And with the Kong, I would give it a 3 out of 10 as well, but for completely different reasons, simply because it's got a much better base sculpt and it started stronger than the original. But they're just cheap repaint cash grabs, and I don't recommend either. Wah, wah. Sorry, Playmates, you lost me on these ones. And they didn't even market them as a package. It costs like 25 bucks to get both of them. Put them in both a package at like $15, and then maybe there's some value to it. At least nowadays, when they do these weird repaints, they add like a play set to go with it. That did not come with these guys. Does anybody have any of these guys? What do you guys think of them? Was I being way too harsh on them? I'm sure somebody out there enjoyed them. That'll do it for this one, guys. I'm going to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.